a lot of problems in the modern football game, and almost all of them can be summed up by one player. Nottingham Forest right winger Anthony Elanga. And here's the kicker, none of it is his fault. What the hell am I talking about? I will explain, I promise. Coming up next on Pints and Punditry at the Pitchside Pub. Money is everything, and of course that is not Anthony Elanga's fault. In fact, none of this is. I'm not blaming him in any way. He is just the most epitomizing example of many of the problems in today's footballing world, none of which are going to change. I'm going to explain everything I'm talking about in a second, but before we do, go ahead and hit that subscribe button for me down below so you can follow the channel. Get down in the comment section, let me know what you think about Elanga, the fact that he left Manchester United for Nottingham Forest, other players who fit this example, anything. Get in that comment section, let me know what you think. You can also leave some comments on Twitter at PitchsidePub, and check out the website pitchsidepub.com. Now, I'm being really careful here not to be, old man yelling at the cloud, right? Because, there are certain things that have changed that are not going to go back. Money is such a big part of every sport these days. They are all global. Sports are all global businesses. The NBA, the NFL here in America, the Premier League, these are global entities at this point. The money is unbelievable. And with that comes a lot of problems that I don't see getting fixed. But the decision-making still has to be strong, and it's that need for money now, instantly, everything to work right away that is causing the problem. So I've identified 4 key problems in the modern game that I think a lot of clubs still make these mistakes very frequently, and I have pinpointed none other than Anthony Elanga as the epitome, the best example of why these are all a problem. Now, none of this has to do with Elanga. He is having a very good season for Nottingham Forest. He's found a system that fits. He's having a really good year. He's developed a whole bunch of good things I'm going to get into. So I actually applaud him. I applaud Nottingham Forest for going and getting him. This is not a knock on him in any way. But he's a great example of the things that clubs do wrong and why it costs them. So there's 4 key issues that I see happening all the time in business that I want to talk about today. The first one is the need for immediate gratification, and this one has a few components to it, but every club needs to win right away, and if they don't win right away, they immediately veer from their plan and go down a different path, and thus they never actually get anywhere. They're zigging left, they're zagging back right, and they never actually accomplish anything. So the need for immediate gratification is a major problem with many clubs, particularly big clubs. There's so much money on the line. They've got sponsorships, they've got investors, they have to make European tournaments, particularly the Champions League, because of all the money that is at stake there. In many cases, they have already spent that money, so if they don't then guarantee that television money the next year, they're going to have to sell off a lot of pieces or possibly face penalties from PSR. So it's that need for immediate gratification that is the first problem. That need then causes 2 other sort of sub-problems that happen all the time. The first one of those is that they fire coaches way too quickly. Coaches are tossed in, tossed out, brought back, sent off. 18 months, is not enough time to change the entire trajectory of a club under a new coach, particularly if you're going to empower that coach to do the things you hired him to do. Coaches are fired too quickly. If you watch this channel, you've heard me bang that drum repeatedly, and I will continue to do it as long as they continue to be turned over, because when you fire coaches too quickly, you don't get the players in the systems that fit those skills. A coach has a system. Look at Manchester United right now. They are a mess because Ruben Amorim is trying to play a style of football with players who do not fit that style. This happens all the time, particularly at big clubs where they need that instant gratification. And it doesn't happen right away because you've barely even coached through a transfer window. Manchester United is not getting Ruben Amorim the players he needs now in January. They can't overhaul their entire roster next summer. Realistically, it could take a year and a half, 2 windows. It's 3 or 4 transfer windows to get the players in that he needs for his system. And this matters. Player fit matters. We're going to talk about that with Elanga in a second because it's a part of why he's having such success at Nottingham Forest under Nuno Espirito Santo. So you have to have patience, right? And not fire the manager too quickly because he did not have immediate success. And part of the reason for that is because he needs to get the players in that fit his system. This is not FIFA. This is not Football Manager. You can't just slot guys in and expect them to hit the ground running. And not every player fits well with every system or under every manager. Very few, in fact. Only the truly great players, the elite of the elite, world class, if you will, depending on your definition of that. Only that upper echelon of players truly can play under any coach in any system. Outside of that, even the next tier of very good players will have wide ranges of success based on the coach that they play for and the system in which they play. Do you have a coach that likes to get out on the front foot and press? Is that part of your skill set? Are you better in small spaces? Do you have pace to get running? These are all different skill sets that not every player has all of. And so the system in which they play makes a great deal of difference. So you've got to give the manager the time to get those players in. You have to do that by not firing him right away, and you have to do that by not needing that immediate gratification. It really all snowballs. Last but not least, we expect far too much too soon from young players, and we are spoiled. We have been very spoiled these days. Players are developing younger. We are seeing impacts sooner and sooner. Jude Bellingham and what he's doing at Real Madrid and some of the teenagers that are having success in the Premier League. Barcelona has been relying on teenagers with great success for a few years now because they can't afford anything else. Teenagers are doing amazing things. Players are developing sooner, earlier, and better. But it doesn't mean they all do it. It doesn't mean it's going to work for every player. So when a player enters the Premier League in a big club with the pressure on and only gets sporadic playing time here and there and can't get a rhythm because they're 19 and don't immediately have tremendous success, you can't give up on that player. The development is not linear. That's a key phrase that I throw around a lot. Development is not linear. This is true in all sports. This is true in American sports, where I was a baseball scout for a decade. It's not linear. Some guys get it right away. Some guys it takes a while. Some need more playing time. Some need to be fostered in a better environment. There are all sorts of variables because these are human beings. So just because a player like Anthony Elanga doesn't develop into a star by 20 doesn't mean he's not going to, or doesn't mean he won't become the player you thought he was going to be, whether that was an elite star or a very good player or a role player or a squad player or whatever else it may be. It's not linear, and they all develop at different timetables. So the need for immediate gratification causes managers to be fired too soon, which means rosters never truly fit their manager, and then young players don't develop quick enough, and you again need that immediate gratification and you cast them off. Every one of those things applies to Anthony Elanga. To get back to the main point of this video, what happened with him going from Manchester United to Nottingham Forest can only be explained by these four problems, because he was a highly touted young player who came up in the United system, played for the under-18 team, played for the under-21 team, had success, bounced around in positions, left wing, right wing, center forward, a little bit of second striker in there. He even dabbled at left back and right back for some of the Manchester youth teams as he was coming up, as players tend to do. But that development takes time, and he was thrust into a chaotic Manchester United situation, none of which was his fault, where they had coaching change after coaching change every couple years, and different systems and different personnel, and he's getting, and that really starts to trickle down, particularly into the academy levels. I did a video a while back on Jurgen Klopp's effect at Liverpool, and the fact that when Trent Alexander-Arnold went down, Connor Bradley could just slide right in because he knew exactly what was expected of him, because Jurgen Klopp had been there for a decade, and thus all the academy clubs had taught that same style and system for a decade. His entire footballing life had been taught how to play Jurgen Klopp's style of football, so when his name was called, he knew what to do and where to be. It doesn't make him Trent Alexander-Arnold, but it made him ready, and you saw the results. He's a very good player, and he was a good player right away. When you're at Manchester United and you get a new coach every 2 to 3 years, that doesn't happen. So a player like Elanga, who's coming up in that system, learns a little bit here, and then learns a little bit here, and then they play this style, then they play this style, and he gets to the first team, and he hasn't been trained in any one particular way, and you have a disaster on your hands. Additionally, his style of play, his skill set, the things he does best, do not go well with Erik ten Hag, under whom he was playing for in his final years at Manchester United. Ten Hag wanted to possess the ball. He wanted to play in the short part of the pitch. Elanga is a speedster who likes to cross. It just doesn't fit well. He likes to get out, use his pace. He has tremendous speed. He likes to run. It works great with Nuno Espirito Santo, who likes to sit a little deeper and then hit him on the counterattack. He is built for Nuno ball, and it's working because the assist rates have skyrocketed because he's being utilized in the right position and the right style. He played a ton of different positions, and he still has dabbled at the left wing a little bit with Nottingham Forest, but he seems to have settled in as a right winger or right midfielder, and the stats don't lie in terms of his production at those positions. In his career between United and Nottingham Forest, as a right winger or a right midfielder, his assist rate is 0.42 assists per 90 in those two positions compared to 0.18 assists per 90 at all other positions. He functions best on the right because he is right-footed and he likes to cross. He has a high rate of crosses coming in with that right foot, and he uses his speed out wide. He doesn't operate as well in the small spaces in the center of the pitch. That's not his style, so it didn't fit with Ten Hag. You know who it would fit with, however? Ruben Amorim. Ruben Amorim could use him as a wingback and really let him run. And so, not that he would, but there are different styles and different fits and different plays there. Under Nuno Espirito Santo, Anthony Elanga has 0.38 assists per 90 minutes. Under all other managers, it's 0.22 assists per 90 minutes. He is producing better under Nuno Espirito Santo than he ever has under any manager he had at Manchester United. Now, part of that is the system. But that cannot tell the whole story. Part of it is also getting a good run of games. He's in a rhythm. He's playing. He has become a starter for them. He is a key piece for them. So that helps too. You get into the rhythm. Football's a confidence game, especially for young players. And so you're going to see better production out of that. He's also older. And yet, he's still only 22. Do you realize that? I didn't realize that. I would have guessed he was 24, 25 before I looked it up, just because he's been around for so long. We've heard the name so much, and because he got such an early start at Manchester United, but he's only 22. He'll turn 23 in April, which means when Manchester United sold him in the summer of 23, he was still just 20 years old. They sold him for pennies on the dollar. Really, 18 million euros on the transfer fee was down from what was expected of him. And again, part of this is just expectations, but part of it is development is not linear. It wasn't a good system for him. Playing a bunch of different positions, not playing regularly, and most importantly, he was only 20 years old. And not everybody can come in and do what other teenagers, even on his own roster, are doing. That's not a knock on Elanga that he didn't become Kobe Mainoo right away, or that he didn't become, other teenage sensations that have come through that storied club. It doesn't make him a disappointment. It just means it's going to be slower to get there. And yet Manchester United cast him off because they needed every dollar they could, and they'd rather go spend a ton of money on a player like Anthony, who also, by the way, is not having the development that we thought. So, I don't want to harp too much on Anthony Elanga, and I want it to be positive. He is having a great year for Nottingham Forest. They should be commended for recognizing that he is still a talent, was still a talent when they went and got him, and that he just hadn't developed yet, and that they were a place where he could develop. And then they brought in a manager that fit his style, not just to play for, they didn't bring in Nuno just for Anthony Elanga, but they looked at their roster and said, what do we have? What can we do well? Let's find a manager that fits these players' styles, rather than bring in a manager and then have to flush out the system and rehash the entire roster. So really good business by Nottingham Forest. Obviously bad business by Manchester United, but what else is new? But I just found it interesting that some of these really core principles that are problematic in modern football today, every single one of them was a factor in why Anthony Elanga didn't work out at Manchester United, and why it shouldn't be any surprise that he's having a nice season at Nottingham Forest. I would love to get your thoughts. Is there more to this? Am I missing any other parts? What other players sort of fit into this same category as Anthony Elanga in terms of, didn't get a chance to develop or weren't in a good position at their old club and then went somewhere else and had a lot of success? I would lie. There's tons more examples. This is just the most relevant one after this week when he had a couple of good games. But I would love to get your thoughts. Get down in that comment section. Let me know what you think. You can also leave comments on Twitter at PitchsidePub. While you're at it, go ahead, hit that subscribe button for me down below so you can follow the channel and check out the website, pitchsidepub.com. Thanks as always for joining us here on Pints and Punditry at the Pitchside Pub.